Hi guys, and welcome to my channel where I talk about all things Harry Potter related. In today's video, I'm going to explore Voldemort's timeline leading up to the events of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. In order to understand Voldemort, it's really important to examine the circumstances leading up to his birth. Gaunt, Voldemort's mother, fell in love with the rich and handsome neighboring Muggle boy, Tom Riddle Sr., Voldemort's father. This love was unrequited, but we'll get to that later. Gaunt, Merob's brother, mocks her for liking a Muggle boy. We have to remember that the Gaunts were a very old, pure-blood wizarding family, the direct descendants of Salazar Slytherin. One day, when Gaunt noticed his sister, Merob Gaunt, looking at Tom Riddle Sr. with interest, he spitefully hit him with a jinx. This attack results in a visit to the Gaunt residence from the head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, during which Marvolo Gaunt, the father of Merob and Morphin assaulted the Ministry personnel. Morphin was sentenced to 3 years in Azkaban, and his father, Marvolo, received a 6-month sentence. Merob Gaunt is now alone. She uses a love potion to fool Tom Riddle Sr. into marrying her. Dumbledore says that Merob and Tom Riddle Sr. were married about a year before Tom Marvolo Riddle was born, which was on December 31st, 1926. Merob, feeling guilty for keeping Tom Riddle Sr. under the spell of love potions, takes a chance to be truthful with him. Unfortunately, after the effects of the love potion wear off, Tom Riddle Sr. doesn't return her feelings and isn't willing to stay in the marriage for the sake of the child. He abandons his wife and unborn son. Merob Gaunt, pregnant and desperate for money, sells a family heirloom, Slytherin's locket, to Borgin and Burghs. The locket is later sold to Hepzibah Smith. The name will be important later on. Merob, who is now approaching the full term of her pregnancy, is heartbroken and has lost the will to live. She stumbles into an orphanage in London, where she dies shortly after giving birth to her son. Her final wish was for the boy to be named Tom Marvolo Riddle, after his father and grandfather. Tom Marvolo Riddle is left to be cared for by the orphanage. Marvolo Gaunt, Voldemort's grandfather, returns from Azkaban after 6 months to find Merob gone. Living alone, he withers away and dies, sometime shortly after. Gaunt returns from Azkaban after serving a 3-year sentence to find both his father and sister dead. He ends up living alone in the Gaunt house for many years, until Tom Riddle returns and frames him for murdering the Riddle family, but we'll get to that part later. In 1938, the now 11-year-old Tom Riddle, who has realized that he has special abilities, is visited by Dumbledore at the orphanage and offered a place at Hogwarts. This is also when Tom reveals to Dumbledore that he can speak to snakes. Later that year, Tom arrives at Hogwarts and is sorted into the Slytherin house. During his time at Hogwarts, Tom Riddle learns about the Chamber of Secrets. Tom Riddle says it took him 5 whole years to find out everything he could about the Chamber of Secrets and discover the secret entrance. Since the chamber was opened in 1943, which we'll get to later, we can conclude that he first learned about it in 1938. Now, in 1942, at age 16, during his summer holidays, Tom Riddle tracks down his maternal family, who he was able to find by going off the name Marvolo, which she knew had been his mother's father's name, and having also discovered the existence of Slytherin's surviving line. He's disappointed to find his uncle Morphin to be a rather sorry excuse for a wizard living in a disheveled state of poverty. From Morphin, Tom learns the history of his mother and father. Tom then goes to the Riddle house and murders his father and paternal grandparents. He then returns to the Gaunt house, where he places a memory modification charm on Morphin. When the Ministry of Magic officials arrive, Morphin, who's under the spell, proudly boasts of killing the Muggles and is taken off to Azkaban. Tom also uses this opportunity to steal the Gaunt family ring from Morphin. This is the ring containing the Resurrection Stone. Marvolo Gaunt described the ring as having the Peveril coat of arms on it. It's important to remember that the Gaunts were descendants of Slytherin, and Slytherin was a descendant of the three Peveril brothers from the Deathly Hallows. Later during that school year, Tom, now wearing the Gaunt family ring, meets with Professor Horace Slughorn and confirms that a soul can be split and used to create a Horcrux. Tom Riddle turns the ring into his first Horcrux. Now, in 1943, 5 years since Tom began his search for the Chamber of Secrets, he finally finds its entrance. Tom uses Parseltongue to control and release the basilisk. Within a few weeks, the basilisk injures several students of the school. When Myrtle Warren overhears Tom summoning the basilisk, she's subsequently killed. Myrtle's death leads to talks of Hogwarts closing down. Not wanting to return to the orphanage, Tom abandons his plans for the Chamber of Secrets. Tom, knowing that Rubeus Hagrid is harboring Aragog, frames him as the heir of Slytherin, and Aragog as the monster. Hagrid is expelled from Hogwarts, and Tom is given a special award for services to the school. Tom uses the Myrtle of Myrtle to turn his diary into a Horcrux. As he says in the Chamber of Secrets, he knew it wouldn't be safe to open the chamber again while he was still at school, but he wasn't going to waste those long years he'd spent searching for it. He decided to leave behind a diary, preserving his 16-year-old self so that one day he'd be able to lead another in his footsteps. In 1944, Tom begins his final year at Hogwarts. He's now a head boy. In the same year, he finds out about the existence of a diadem that belonged to Rowena Ravenclaw and learns that the Grey Lady is the ghost of Rowena's daughter, Helena. Tom charms the Grey Lady into revealing the location of the diadem that she had hidden. We don't know exactly when Tom Riddle actually finds the diadem. In the book, it says he traveled to Albania and retrieved the diadem from its hiding place after he left Hogwarts, but before he started working at Borgin and Burghs. He used the murder of an Albanian peasant to turn the diadem into a Horcrux. In 1945, after Tom Riddle finishes his 7th and final year, he applies for a job teaching at Hogwarts. Headmaster Armando Dippet turns him down, saying that at 18 he's too young. Rather than entertaining offers to work at the ministry, Tom decides to work as an assistant at Borgin and Burghs at Knockturn Alley. A decade later, while still working at Borgin and Burghs, Tom befriends Hepzibah Smith, a wealthy old witch who is a descendant of Helga Hufflepuff. Hepzibah falls for Tom's charms and decides to impress him by showing her possession of Helga Hufflepuff's goblet that had been passed down generations. She also reveals her purchase of Salazar Slytherin's locket that Merope had sold to Borgin and Burghs. Tom poisons Hepzibah Smith in order to claim the artifacts. Tom implants a false memory on her house elf, Hoki, who confesses to the ministry that she committed the murder. Tom uses the murder of Hepzibah Smith to turn Hufflepuff's goblet into a Horcrux, and later kills a Muggle tramp to do the same with Slytherin's locket. Soon after, Tom quits his job at Borgin and Burghs. For the next decade, Tom Riddle disappears. He spends a decade traveling the world, sinking deeply into the dark arts. When he resurfaces years later as Lord Voldemort, he's barely recognizable. Now, in the late 1960s, Voldemort resurfaces and makes a return to Hogwarts. At this time, he's already gathered his own followers and has already created a reputation for himself. Upon his return to Hogwarts, he meets with Albus Dumbledore, now the headmaster, to apply for the position of Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. However, Dumbledore sees through his guise and denies him the position. However, before departing from Hogwarts, Voldemort seeks out the Room of Requirement and hides the Horcrux of Ravenclaw's diadem. Voldemort also curses the Defense Against the Dark Arts teaching position, so that no future professor is able to fill the role for more than 1 year. It's now the 1970s, and with his band of Death Eaters, Voldemort's first reign of terror has begun. His ascent to power is marked by many strange disappearances. Albus Dumbledore establishes the Order of the Phoenix to counter the Death Eaters, but they have little success. In 1980, Severus Snape, a Death Eater, in Voldemort's inner circle, follows Dumbledore to the Hogshead Inn where Dumbledore interviews Sybil Trelawney for the position of Divination Professor. Trelawney makes a prophecy about a baby who will be born at the end of July, a baby who will be able to defeat the Dark Lord. Snape is only able to hear half of the prophecy before he's caught and kicked out from the Hogshead. In July of 1980, Harry Potter is born to James Potter and Lily Potter. His birth fulfills the prophecy given months before by Sybil Trelawney. Voldemort now set his target on the child of the Potters. Dumbledore sends the Potters into hiding. Sirius Black is said to be secret keeper for their location, but at the last minute Peter Pettigrew is made secret keeper because Sirius Black is targeted by Voldemort supporters. However, Pettigrew is in fact a spy for Voldemort. He reveals the location of the Potters. Voldemort heads to Godric's Hollow after killing James and Lily Potter. Voldemort tries to kill Harry. The moment he hits Harry with the killing curse, it rebounds on Voldemort himself. Voldemort survives to his Horcrux, but is left without a body. Voldemort, now without physical form, retreats into the forests of Albania, where he possesses the bodies of various animals to survive for the next decade. Until 1990, when Voldemort encounters Quirrell in Albania. Voldemort finds out about the Philosopher's Stone, and that it can help him regain his body. Voldemort uses his powers of persuasion and turns Quirrell into his servant, who he uses to travel back to England. So that's a summary of Voldemort's timeline leading up to Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, feel free to let me know if there are any specific topics you would like me to cover in an upcoming video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one, where I'll be talking about how Voldemort could have actually won.